Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 15th, 2021 at approximately 5:29 p.m. PST. Well, today has been an interesting day. That came out well. I've seen a lot of people really starting to talk to each other. Still keeping their distance, which is imperative at this point. I mean, the basic rule of thumb is this. If you don't get too close to people, and I mean physically too close, it's harder to spread the virus. It's that simple. Now, whether you believe the virus or not doesn't really matter. The reality is, it's out there. That's what the governments around the world are responding to. That's what the medical society is responding to. So we sort of have to deal with it. Okay, but like I've said, everybody on the planet is in the same position. We are exactly where we are right this moment. This is where things start. Okay, which puts everybody on the same level. Okay, everybody being the same value, not necessarily the same monetary value, but the reality of it is this: everybody, in my opinion, has exactly the same worth. Okay, you're all equally important. And it is really, it's time that we start focusing on the similarities between people and not the differences. I mean, understand, everybody is unique. Okay. But we all have to take a look at where our world is right now and see what you're content with, what you're happy with, and, more to the point, what you're not happy with in your life. Because by eliminating the things you're not content with, two things happen. First, all you'll be left with is things in your life that you're content with. The other thing that happens is as you remove the stress from your life, you will deal better with the people that you run into away from your home. Okay, net result, their day will get better. They go home and they start doing the same thing, and we have a cascade effect where basically you see these little tiny pockets of positive energy starting to surface and starting to spread out, ripple out, and grow with each other. By doing this, we can literally end the wars. We can end the famine. Now, I know that's a major job at this point. Okay, but the reality of the whole thing, okay, when we take a look at it, the reality is this. It took a long time to get to this point. Frankly, I've been watching this, and because I remember my past lives, I've been watching this progression for centuries. And mankind is still doing the same silly thing. They are focusing on negativity. They're focusing on the differences, on what they don't have, and they keep trying to go about getting it without actually going through the effort. Now, karmic law is pretty cut and dried. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Meaning, if you desire something, do the work for it. Talk to the people that have done it, find out how they did it, and then do your best to replicate what they did, given that they are giving you directions that are of a positive nature. Okay, if they say, I made my millions by selling drugs, this is not a good idea unless you're a legal pharmacy. Okay, and there's all sorts of conflict on that one. But the one thing, just speaking to the pharmacies for a moment, the one thing I always look at is, at least with the pharmaceutical companies, what they do is go, here's the thing that this pill will do to help you. And here's this stack of things it'll do to kill you. Please buy my product. Now, in my opinion, if you don't do the research and find out what the negative side effects are of said medication, or what the cross current is by combining medications, and you're buying it, that is not the pharmacy's fault. Okay, it's yours. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not take a lot of medication myself. I take some right now to work as a crutch until I get things organized. But again, I've been eliminating things in my own life that I'm not content with. It's been doing wonders for my stress level, for the most part. Like I mentioned a while ago, People told me coffee isn't good for you. Well, I'll tell you, put my coffee over there has increased my dexterity, my coordination with my left hand exponentially over what it was before I put my coffee over there. But take a look, and I know I've gone over this before. Okay, it is time for everybody that has a little bit of a upper hand, that has an understanding of how to make things happen in a positive fashion. It is the responsibility of those people to reach out to help the people that don't really understand what they're up to or don't know how to get ahead. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying give everybody all the hand up in the world. The old saying that goes, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. So I'm not talking about giving money to people that don't have it. I'm talking about teaching them how to work with what they've got and how to enhance their life by taking control of it. If you already have a handle on that, in my opinion, it's your responsibility to guide other people. On the flip side of that, the people that are behind the 8 ball, okay, those people, their responsibility is to graciously accept the assistance and not take advantage of the people offering it. Certainly take advantage of the opportunity. If somebody says, here's an opportunity, this may help. Absolutely jump on it if it feels right. If it falls into your venue, absolutely work with it. Okay, because you've got to put the effort into things. You're the only one on the planet that can be successful for you. Now, I am starting to see people talking to each other again, which is fantastic. Okay, I mean, if there's one thing that has happened with everybody being isolated from people, even when people have been they were used to using phones and what have you, now they're looking for direct contact, which is extremely beneficial as far as the overall society goes. By reconnecting with these people, you'll be able to see the world starting to shift in a positive fashion. But it's going to take the effort of all of us. Okay, not just one person. The society did not get to this state overnight, nor did it get to this state because of one group of people. Okay, it's not one color of people's issue. It's not one income bracket. Okay, it is simply the combined effort or lack thereof of everybody on the planet doing the same thing, either aiming at only their own needs, their own desires, or just totally disregarding the side effects of what they were aiming for. Okay, and with that in mind, it's now time that we start looking at each other as codenizens of this world. And this is the only world, this is the world we started on. Now, there is some suspicion and some rumor out there, or theory, that mankind came from another world. Let's assume for a moment that mankind did. Let's just not argue the point. Let's go with this. If you're on this planet, if you were born on this planet, regardless of where mankind came from, this is your first world personally. Because I'm laying odds there aren't a whole lot of you out there that are listening to this video that actually were born on a different planet, or for that matter, born on a space station. So, for you, regardless of how long mankind has been here, regardless of where it came from, for you personally, this is your first world. It's time to start treating it as such. It's time to start working with the other denizens of this planet and start making this a better world for all. Now, am I perfect? No, not even remotely close. Well, I guess if we use the term remotely, yeah, I guess we could say that I'm remotely close to it. But the reality is, I've got my flaws, you got your flaws. All I am suggesting, don't necessarily take my word for it. Look at what I'm talking about and do your own research. Talk to the people around you, see what happens. Okay, worst case scenario, you say hello to somebody, they don't say a word to you. Worst likely case. I remember one day I was going through walking through a store, and I heard the cashier very politely tell a gentleman, "Have a nice day." Well, the guy spun on her and really really bit at her and goes, "Don't tell me what kind of day to have." And I'm thinking, does it really take that much effort to be nice? Okay, is it really a lot of work? There was another chap, and this guy, that one was a younger chap. Okay, I saw another one where there was a senior, and he was on a scooter. There was this tiny little girl. I guess she was 3, maybe 4 years. And she was looking at all she was doing was she was standing 4 or 5 feet back, and she was looking at this scooter and just wide-eyed and a real big smile on her face. And the guy looked at her and he barks at her and goes, "Get away from my scooter." Right. Well, she nearly burst into tears, except the older chap behind me. He was there on a cane, a heavy-set chap. And he looked at the little girl and he smiled at her and he goes, "I wonder how much effort it takes to be that grumpy at this age." Right. I mean, the reality is, yes, people have bad days, and there's no telling what went on. But I do encourage you to really think before you bite at people. Okay, this world will be a lot more enjoyable without half the stress. Okay, and if we start working with each other to eliminate eliminate the negative things, to eliminate the things that you're not content with. And the way I went about it is real simple. I've got this funny little list here. Now, again, I don't expect anybody to read it. I mean, heck, I look at it, I can barely read it, and I'm not holding it up to the screen. But I've got a whole bunch of different things on it that I'm aiming at getting done. About 2/3 of them are done already, I do believe. Okay. So, I mean, from that standpoint, by putting a list together, okay, what you can do is you can get rid of, and when you put the list together, make the list of jobs that are 15 minutes to half an hour in length. By doing that, you'll be able to get them racked off. Now, 15 minutes to half hour in length, okay, per job. Okay, if you think of an 8-hour day, you're looking at anywhere from 16 to 32 hours or 32 tasks. Okay, which will keep you busy. And if you don't get them done, that's no problem. You've got the list started for the following day. And that way you can eliminate the things that you're not content with and get yourself back to only having the things around you that you do feel right about. Okay, very important that we start eliminating the stress. Lord knows with this COVID situation, Lord knows it's been a long haul for everybody. Okay, and let's not worry about how it came about. Not for the moment. It really doesn't matter. It's here. We're dealing with it. But people are getting fed up with the length of time. Okay. However, that said, you work inside the parameters. I mean, in my case, I'm lucky. I was reclusive before COVID hit, so my staying home and away from people was really kind of easy. For many of you out there, though, it's been a real challenge. Now, there's been a problem with all kinds of misinformation, but we have to understand something very critical here. A lot of the reason at the beginning of it that there wasn't a lot of information is because nobody had it. Okay. And from my standpoint, it's pretty cut and dried. If the information isn't there, you can't hand it out. The fact that it has been handled in a bizarre fashion, in my opinion, I'm not the one that is looking at all of the information out there. I'm just one individual. What I'm looking at is the reaction of other people. Okay, and the number of people that are quite literally looking at things. The number of people that are creating a problem because their freedoms are being interfered with. Well, newsflash. If you drop dead because of the illness, it's going to really mess up your freedoms. Okay. And if you're putting yourself in the middle, like, And this is why my hat goes off to the front, to the first line workers. Okay, the front lines. Because they're putting their lives on the line. They are the police, the firemen, the ambulance drivers, doctors. They're all putting their lives on the line. And of course, let's not forget the care workers. They're out there trying to deal with people. Okay. And the least we can do is work with them. Now, of course, the reality of it from my standpoint is simple. Do I like what's going on? Not at all. Am I 100% behind every decision made? Not even remotely close. Okay, like we're nowhere near even the 50% mark of what's being done. However, I still work with the laws that are coming out, and I still encourage you to do exactly the same thing, as in work within the boundaries that are being laid out. You don't have to agree with them. And yes, there are people out there that will go, well, our freedoms are being taken away. And they probably are. But if taking your freedoms away keeps you alive, would that not be beneficial? It's like when we've got, when we take a look at the different religions out there. They talk about love, peace, forgiveness, all of this. And yet, from my understanding, 80% of the wars out there are caused because of a difference in religious viewpoint. Now, when I got looking into the guidelines of the various religions, I found out they're all teaching the same thing. And all of them basically fall into the 3 laws. Be true to yourself, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, and energy out, energy in. Okay, well, with that in mind, if they're all essentially teaching the same thing, then it's time to quit worrying about whether or not people are looking at it exactly the same way you are. I mean, let's face it, in case you hadn't noticed, I don't look at the world the way most people do. Okay, and yet I am what you would call a Christian. I do believe in Christ. I do believe in God. Probably more so than most. Okay, and there's a lot of reasons I put it that way, but that being said, do I fear God? Absolutely not. Of course, in all fairness, I respected my father and I didn't fear him either. But sadly, my father has passed on. Thankfully, God hasn't. Okay. So, could I get did I get guidance from my father while he was alive? Absolutely. Didn't fear him. I'm not about to fear God. Okay, and whatever religious guideline you work with, if you work under the belief that God or some entity created everything you see, if you believe that Mother Earth, the Gaia, gave birth to everything you're standing on, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, though, that in either event, neither one of them required worshippers in order to get their energy levels up where they could do the creation thing. Okay, they do deserve respect. Okay, and especially if you claim to believe in them, it really is imperative that you do respect. Okay, now if you know people that are following a religious leader that has said, through me you can get into a better world, and that religious leader is up in the middle of nowhere behind fences and with weapons, you may want to reconsider whether this is a good guideline. Okay, for instance, you wouldn't talk to a pyromaniac about the best way to put a fire out because the odds are he ain't going to really care one way or the other about putting the fire out. Okay. He may well know how, but most of the time it's not a question do they know how, it's a question do they want to bother. Because fire is fascinating to watch. I'm quite willing to admit that. I like lighting a candle and watching it. However, I was in a house fire years ago. Not the funnest thing to wake up to. Somebody banging on your window going, hey, your house is on fire. Get up, the house is on fire. I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting out of bed. I mean, fortunately, I don't tend to panic in that sort of thing. But I digress rather badly there. When it comes to what's going on in your world, take a serious look at the way your world is and ask yourself one thing. Are you content with the way that your world is, that the things going on around you are happening? Okay. If you're not completely content with it, that's okay. That's probable. Take a look at what you're not content with and ask yourself, I'm not content with this, so what can I change? Doesn't matter what you change or how you change it. If you change it from what it was that you weren't content with, if it doesn't work to make you content, you can always change it again. Okay, and eventually all you're left with is things that you're happy with. Okay, like for instance, I've been going through a lot of stuff here on the desk. And I've been eliminating stuff out of my way, and I'm quite content with that side of it. Okay, I am making headway. Not as fast as I probably could, but then I didn't actually do anything today. I pretty much sat and played video games. Okay, in other words, this video is not the only thing I do. Okay, I mean, I do have my hobbies. Video games, Dungeons and Dragons, and of course, I'm in the middle of writing 31 different books in, I think, 5 different genres. Self-help, reference, poetry, children's, and science fiction, science fantasy. Yeah, so 5 different genres. Okay, so do I get a little carried away on occasion? I'll get locked sometimes in my office for hours at a stretch, for obvious reasons. Okay, but I have some very definitive goals. And I do encourage you, if you've got goals, no matter what they are, don't let anybody tell you that goals can't be attained. However, understand it's going to take patience to make it happen, and there may be a lot of steps that you haven't looked at. This is why you talk to people that have successfully done what you're aiming at or done something similar to it. So you can find out what they did or what obstacles they found out about that they would have loved to have gotten out of the way first. Okay, I was just talking to somebody the other day that was trying to open their own business. And like I told them, pick the name first. Okay, you pick a name that you're happy with. One that tells you what the company is, that encourages people to look at it, and is unique unto you. Okay, then you start looking at what you want to work with. Well, in all fairness, get an idea of what the product is or the service that you're looking at. Get an idea of that. So you've got a ballpark, then you can tailor the name to said products or said services. Okay, now, again, I've got in print right now 5 different books. I think 5. That if you take a look at the list and then below this video, you'll find a list of different books that I've written that can only be ordered through me at this point. Okay, and there are contact points below. All kinds of them as far as ways to get a hold of me. So if you got questions in any venue at all, because I mean, let's face it, I've dealt with relationships, business, mediumship, UFOs, alien technologies, alien races. The gamut is pretty wide. I've been doing this for 48 years now. Okay, because I actually started doing this kind of work when I was 10. So I just turned 58 2 days ago. Okay, but I've finally gotten to the point where, and thanks very much. Well, that came out well. Thanks very much to the people that encouraged me to get into doing the videos, because that's what got me started. Now I look at it going, I still am not on a schedule where I can go, first thing in the morning I'm going to put a post out. Okay, but I have managed, for the most part, to get at least 1 video a day out. Okay, and that has gone from just looking at how to get my own life organized. And if you go back through the earlier videos I've done, okay, I cover a lot of that. Okay, now we're looking at some bigger pictures. Okay, what happens when we take a look at the way the world is? What happens when we start getting every person to start working towards the same goal? Oddly enough, they're all individual goals. And I think that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm just going to make a note for myself here. Okay, for the video tomorrow, because we're coming down to the end here, I am going to be dealing with taking a look, and I'm going to put a pictographical description up here, okay, to explain how each individual working on their own world, as we do that, how that will affect the way that the world changes on the whole. Okay, because quite frankly, it didn't take us overnight to get to this state. It's not going to be overnight that it takes to turn it around. Okay. Now, with that in mind, it's up to every single one of us, every elemental agency, every plant, every animal, every race of the human species, and every member of every other race that's on the planet. Rest assured, humans are not the only ones. Okay, humans are just they are the most technologically advanced, okay, surface dwelling denizens of Earth. That is why mankind got the title, if you will, or the responsibility of caretaker of the planet. But the reality is, mankind hasn't been doing a very good job, in my opinion. Okay, now granted, where it comes to the litter, there's a staggering amount of it. But if you think about it, if only one person drops a candy bar wrapper on the ground, that really isn't a big issue until you start looking at the numbers. And if 100,000 people drop a single candy wrapper each on the ground, all of a sudden you've got a pretty big mountain. Okay, now there are dumps and what have you, the stuff gets collected in, and it still gets blown around the world. Sorry, Mother Nature still has her way with wind and what have you. But at least it is being contained for the most part. And this is what we have to look at. Now, this is a real simple issue from my standpoint, and I'm sure to annoy somebody with it. But there's a lot of people out there that are unemployed right now. Okay, staggering numbers. I happen to be one of the fortunate ones. I'm still working. But for those of you that aren't, that are collecting social services, or they're collecting EI in Canada or SSI in the States, or any sort of social assistance, if you are on social assistance and you have the actual capacity, I mean, there are people that are medically incapable of working. Okay, it's just they're absolutely impossible. Okay, at least under normal circumstances. If your biggest problem is you're unemployed, okay, get up and go clean the garbage off of a street. Take a bag with you and clean the garbage off a street. Okay, the reality is, it's a mess out there, and it's going to be something that we have to work together to do. Now, it's amazing how many people I've talked to that have complained about, well, we can't have civilians out there picking up garbage because it takes away the work for the people that are being paid. And there's a lack of garbage where? Okay, rest assured, if people start working together, okay, and this is directly to the people that do not have a job. Okay, and the reason I put it that way is because if you're already working, trying to go out and clean up the street is going to be can be a little bit exasperating. But if all you've got is to wait for your paycheck, for the governmental support check to come in, and you've got the capacity to go out and clean and pick stuff up, go out, volunteer, help clean the planet up. Simply walk out and smile at somebody and help them feel better. Okay, yes, there is this little problem with COVID where we have to keep our distance and what have you. I'm not talking about walking right up to people. I mean, you can wave at somebody and smile at them from the far side of the street. Okay, but it is time to realize that working together, people from every walk of life, from every religious background, every spiritual path, if we work together, we can make this a better world for everybody. Now, hopefully we get a thumbs up out of you. Okay, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel, because my idea is real simple. I'd like to get this message out to the entire world, whether they've got access to computers or not. But subscribe to the channel, double check on the back videos I've done, specifically a group that are subtitled language. That'll explain some of the words that are absolutely detrimental in spoken language. Okay, and for that matter, in American Sign Language, that are detrimental to your own evolution and your own success level. Because remember, you're the only person out there that can be successful for you. Okay, now I keep these down to around the half-hour mark. With that in mind, I'm going to bring this to a close. Again, contact numbers are below this video. If you've got any questions or you'd like clarification, including on the alien UFO side of things, okay, absolutely look at the video or look at the contacts below and reach out. I will do my best to respond. But until tomorrow, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.